The desire of the brain is not the desire of the soul. The desire of the brain is predictability. Predictability feels safe. So if something feels unpredictable, the brain will say it doesn't want it. This includes, especially, things like being loved, like being in a relationship, like taking a step onto a career path or any sort of change that is tremendous and is actually going your way. The brain can predict when things don't go your way. It knows what happens when nothing happens, so that feels safe. But for something to happen, for something to change, the brain can't predict it. And so even though it's something that the soul tremendously desires and wants and is there for you, the brain will say, no, we don't want that, because it doesn't feel safe. And then it will do everything it can to cover up the calling of the soul. It will inject anxiety. It will inject itself, the brain saying, I don't want that, and trying to convince you that that's you, when in your soul, you know what you want. The soul knows what it wants. The heart knows what it wants. But the brain is afraid of what the soul wants. So the brain will say, I don't want that, and try to convince you it's you that doesn't want it. It's not you. It's the mind. It's the ego. It's the small self trying to cover up the calling of the soul, obscure it, divert attention and focus from it with anxiety. And that is the definition of self-sabotage. Right fucking there. A thing that you want in your soul deeply, that you desire, that you feel called towards, that your soul, which is you, knows is what you want. And because it's an unpredictable thing, the mind rejects it. The soul seeks it, the mind rejects it, and then the mind will try to cover up the sensation of the soul and convince you that something here is wrong, convince you to stay where you are, not to take that step, not to take that leap, to stay small and hidden because it feels safe, and it'll convince you that that's what you want. It's not. It's not what you want. It's what the mind says it wants. It's what the mind thinks it wants. And you are not the mind. And the mind's desires are not your desires. The mind's desires are driven by fear, not true desire, not passion, not love, not actual wanting, not joy, fear. That is how self-sabotage happens. The thing that you want so deeply and yet you find yourself pulling away from, it's because the mind is afraid. And it has convinced you to identify with it and its fear, to take that fear on as your own. It's not. It's not yours. It's there to witness. It's there to accept, to allow, to experience. But to be experienced with the awareness that the mind is small and limited. Its field of view is very restricted. It doesn't understand the desires of the soul and the heart. It thinks safety is number one. It thinks that's what it wants. But you know better. The soul knows better. So when you see and when you feel the mind pulling away from something and saying no, examine it. Examine it and see that its rejection is because of fear. It is attempting to make the desire appear undesired because it's afraid. Don't let the mind sabotage yourself and what it is you truly want. Pay attention. See how tricky it is, how very small and fearful. The mind will make up 1,000,001 reasons for you not to want something that you do. Don't listen to the mind.